Folks, welcome back. My name is Rudy. You're watching Alpha Investments. What we do here is we discuss the world of cardboard, trading cards, and try to understand why things always get BGS 10s. I hope you're all having a beautiful day today. My name is Timmy. You're watching Rudy's Emporium, where we try to sit in chairs and we try to understand the value of cardboard. Today, we have a conversation. With the hunted. And we address customer comments and patron comments and give it a little love tap on the side. So the question is, where do we start? The raging argument of the game piece versus reprinting. Should LSS in Flesh and Blood, should they lean into the internet? Remember, when a lot of people on the internet get close together, they stick together. It's like a giant transformer. A lot of people believe that all these rising prices in Flesh and Blood need to be reprinted to slow down the growth rate and the price upticks of all these majestic cards. And so let's step back. In Flesh and Blood, you essentially have commons, called commons. You have uncommons in Flesh and Blood, called rares. And essentially there's the majestic slot, which is truly the rare slot, I guess you could say. Double rare maybe. SP. And then you have the legendary slot. And then you've got variants, extended arts, and marvels, and obviously fables and all your fancy stuff. So the tier we're talking about is the majestic slot. Obviously, the Command and Conquer uproar, because of how amazing and beautiful the fucking card looks, and everyone's upset because they can't get it, is, well, legendary. And people are angry about that, and they want my opinion. And my opinion is, I take a cracked bauble and write CNC on it, move on with your life if you just don't want to play a collectible card game. I don't think, because we're seeing continuous price upticks of all these playable, legal majestics that people need for gameplay, means that LSS should lean into it and take all these things, looking at you Uprising, looking at you Outsiders, looking at you Dynasty, looking at you Dusk Till Dawn, and of course, the new Hot 3, Heavy Hitters, Misty, and Rosetta. Some of these people and some of these cards, specifically in the majestic slot, tend to be the most playable sweet spot type thing. A lot of these cards, when they go above the $5, $10, $15 range, some of these majestics start pushing 20s, even 30s. Sometimes they push up to the 40s. And it creates almost anger towards the company because everybody's piling into a single card. And then you have situations where, like, the Tunic gets reprinted, and everyone just says, why is the company doing this? So you have the tug of war we talked about in the other video. In my opinion, I have taken in a lot of feedback and listened to you all's opinions, and a lot of, probably hundreds of patron messages about this new Hunted set, the new Rudy patron sale coming up, obviously the Rudy exclusive patron card and the bundle and everything launching. I'll try to get this video out before Friday. And my opinion, after kind of churning it all over, I don't see a problem with a super gorgeous Command and Conquer extended art, I guess, cold foil, you can call it. It's in a legendary slot. Even if the print run isn't even 200,000 boxes, even if it's a lower print run of 125 to 150,000 range, based on recent sets, yes, having a card like this, any higher tier slot above Majestic, you're not going to add much to the market. And when you see continuous upticks in Majestics in pretty much all Fab 2.0 sets, investors aren't saying, I'm going to buy a bunch of Majestics. I'm going to buy a bunch of rares. I'm going to buy a bunch of these playable. Evil investors and collectors don't really do that. So when we can deduct from market behavior that the number one metric to use is if the playable slot of Majestics in Flesh and Blood products continuously, it's like they all want to push up slowly, and the company is trying to slow it. Like, hey, I need to reprint you, but I don't want to destroy the value. I don't want to tank it and go all game piece army. But at the same time, we can't have it just go parabolic. Like, can you just kind of stay calm? Well, in theory, if you have a growing player base, more people come to the game. The more they play, they build more decks. They get more competitive. That's what Flesh and Blood is. It's a very in-depth, complicated, competitive game. Okay? The organized play, going to events, any of these type, even if you're just like a local armory versus in some all the way up the whole tier of worlds. You know, the more deeper you're entrenched in this, the more you're going to want the tier 1 best version of a slot, a card, a certain piece of gear, a certain type of response. You're going to want the best in slot, as they say, okay? So, without getting deep into certain mechanics, because this is, again, a finance bro, evil Rudy channel, not really a gameplay channel, as long as, in theory, new players come to the game, those players get entrenched, and they buy best in slot cards. Best in slot cards, well, being continuously pulled from the market, tend to be in the Majestic slot. Majestic card buying of singles pulls those particular cards up. As those cards go up, the value in the EV of a sealed product, including new sets like the Hunted and previous sets from last year and the year before, do have impact, interactions, and side effects. Because as this, pause the video. Go to like fabtcg.com or go to TCG Player. I don't care. Look at the singles. Don't just look at the art. Don't be all Rudy and just eye candy. Look at the power level. Look at the cards. Look at the direction, and then look at the sell-through rate. And then go back and look at some of the previous Fab sets. Go back to all these different Fab 2.0 recent sets and look. Go on TCG Player and sort and filter the sorting results on TCG Player. Pick a set. Pick Outsiders. Okay, that seems to be an interesting one recently. And hit View Majestics and look at the charts. None of the charts are literally showing zero activity and straight down. That's not what the market is showing and telling us. The market is showing and telling us that as we get more direction, expansion, understanding of each new Fab set, you're seeing more interactions of previous cards causing people to buy them. Now, some of these older sets, while they're not impossible to find, it's getting more and more interesting because these sets... See, here's the thing. Let's be fucking blunt about it, okay? The lingering negativity of random people be like, well, Rudy, I bought Tails, or I bought Everfest, and, I'm down 10% after 3 years, or the boxes are flat, or, Everfest boxes are actually back to 65 plus tax. $70? Really? I thought they were like 40, 50. So they've gone, well, because of that, that's proof right there that long-term, Flesh and Blood long-term is worthless and has no value. And that's not right. That's not accurate. That is foolish shit. That's simply saying, oh, look, there's sets right there that aren't performing as well as that set, therefore all sets must be the same. Like, that's just not a thing. Like, you can't say that. I can do that with Pokemon. I can do that with Magic. I can pick any card game in existence, handpick a really good set or a really bad set, and I can use that as leverage and context to make fun of or to tell you why it's good or why it's bad. You can't handpick like that. That's why in this video I'm telling you, look at the Fab 2.0 sets. What set is this? Is this set 15? 14? Okay, hold on. Sorry. WTR Art Crew. Mon, Toa, Everfest. Okay, Uprising. Dynasty. Outsiders. Dusk Till Dawn. I think a bunch of geese just flew by. That's 10 right there till Dusk Till Dawn. Then you got Bright Lights, what am I missing? Did I skip a set? Bright Lights to the Heavy Hitters to Misty Rosetta. That's 14. Yeah, so this is set 15. Did I get that right? Or is this 16? 15. Fuck. Go at 15. Make fun of me below. Rudy doesn't even know what he's doing. So you can't say, look at that one set and then ignore the other X amount of sets, okay? We're not looking at the original 3 high-end, super rare beginning days of Flesh and Blood sets. That's the whack era, as people call it. You know, that era is the very high-end special stuff. I'm looking at the recent sets and what's happening. And newer players continue to buy cards from previous sets. That is a simple fact. You may not like that, you may not believe me, but that is a factual statement that is going on. Now, I don't know how many. It's very difficult to kind of give a number and percentage, but there does seem to be new players buying specifically Majestic slot playables, causing continuous upward pressure, which, again, is putting LSS into a situation where the company is trying to decide on handling reprints. That seems to be what's going on. Now, where it gets complicated is people counterpoint and yell at me and argue and say, well, Rudy, specifically, LSS states that reprints will never be better and flashier than previous versions kind of concept. And of course, people are now all pointing to this insanely awesome look. See, people aren't upset or complaining how ugly or the art style or that CNC looks insane. Like, that's not the complaint. The complaint is the fact that they're hitting it again. Then there's another layer of complaints saying it's in the legendary slot when it should be downshifted to Majestic. There's even idiots and Timmies that, of course, want everything to be a quarter, that think CNC should be down slotted like twice to rare. Like, in my personal opinion, now that I've kind of explained to you all the context of what's going on, is I don't see a major problem with the Command & Conquer reprint. I don't see a problem with clearly a newer growing player base buying playable staples. Now the question remains, with many staples from these Fab 2.0 sets getting that constant upward momentum and pressure, does the company in the next 24 months continuously reprint these playable cards to stunt, stop, prevent, or retract the price point and growth rate? Or does the company figure out a way, or the R&D or play testing, whatever, because in my opinion, if I was working at a major corporation, which, you know, I'm Rudy, I'm in a basement and I'm wearing my pajamas, you know, I believe that companies, when you have a situation like Command & Conquer or a Tunic situation, a new Tunic needs to be engineered that is a different build style that makes players say, should I run the Tunic or should I run Rudy's new boob plate Tunic outfit thing? You know, it needs to be something that not the previous card is banned, not the previous card gets its 15th reprint, but I believe a situation needs to be fractured to force players to choose between an alternative vehicle, item, or some sort of card pool that is equally powerful in a different direction, is kind of how I would handle it. That's kind of the Diablo kind of gear kind of hunting thing. If you're building gear for a character and there's a certain item that's best in slot, you know, you can't ban it or stop it or change the drop rate. You kind of want to say, okay, can we create something new to make players not chase that one ring or amulet or item? Or can we add a new item, or can we create a new card that makes people want to run a different card? You know, that's how I've always believed things like this should be handled. That's my opinion. And I don't think it really matters either way, because the market's going to market. So, with that being said, we have the Hunted coming up, okay? A couple of interesting things to mention to you all is this is the 4th set in a row since 2024 that we're seeing very, very strong momentum. In my personal opinion, the Fab market to me feels like it was weakest and bottomed around the Bright Lights release. Now, I don't even think it's related to Bright Lights. I think that was just overall macroeconomic conditions, and I think the overall attitude in the soft market, I believe the bottom was similar to the Magic Pokemon bottom, which is around that, let's call it 2023, in the middle of the year, the summer, the cruel summer, you guys remember that? Where we had like Bright Lights, I think it was like Q3 or Q4 of 2023. I can't remember what it was, like a year and a half ago maybe. I believe that I do still think that that feels like the bottom. And I think Flesh and Blood continues to kind of zigzag its way forward. And I think right now we're going to continue to see a situation where prices of singles outperform the sealed boxes until the one day we wake up and the first set breaks it. And it could be a domino situation. Because right now, everybody is aligned and believing the same thing in the same direction. It is only possible in a certain method. If everybody believes that everything is a certain way, when you have the market shift, it's going to be very violent. I do still believe we're going to have a newer fab, not the original old high-end expensive Versa. I do believe, I don't know when, and I don't know what's going to be the catalyst, but I do believe we're going to have a moment when the first Fab 2.0 set not only ignores map pricing, breaks MSRP, and starts to just kind of go onto a tear. Now, I don't know what, when, or how is going to cause that. Kind of like recently we had in Magic the Gathering, we had the whole bronze era of sealed Magic product for like 6-7 years that was been flat or stayed the same price. And some of the products 10 years old, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, all these events started happening and prices just started jumping 50, 100% within a 5, 7, 1 day, 1 week, 1 month period. And I believe Flesh and Blood is going to behave in a similar method because the Flesh and Blood market is thinner. It doesn't have the depth. There's not 10 million Flesh and Blood players. But the fact that you have a more shallow, sensitive ecosystem, things can move and swing and they can jolt the system harder. And I don't know when or how, but in my opinion, as long as the company continues to produce products like the Hunted, even Rosetta, people were concerned. I had my concern, Tales of Aria 2.0. I had my concerns, not on how it looked, not on the flavor, because it just fucking was beautiful. Not on the marvels, not on the power level, just the vibe and just that type of feel of a set compared to a Misty with the Japanese culture, and of course, heavy hitters being the melee combat, old school, WTR 2.0, and then going into the Hunted, where it has that nice, gritty, raw, bloody, crazy assassin raw. I think that's this type of set and art on just the Hunted alone is going to make people more interested than, for example, Rosetta. That's just because I think the type of customer base that buys Flesh and Blood boxes and cards is the type of, I'm gonna profile that the over 50% of Flesh and Blood players, and even collectors and even investors, are gonna be normal dudes. Just regular, goofy, basement dweller, Rudy-like guys. That's my opinion. People that are just goofy nerds like me. If over half, I'd be even willing to probably say 75 to 85%, could be almost as 90%, but just to be very, just to be very calm and be very, very soft with the conversation. I believe that type of player base, which is what I believe most of the people who buy this, are more attracted to this type of lore and setting for a set of Fab. That's kind of my opinion there. So to conclude the video here, overall, I think this whole Command & Conquer drama thing is kind of stupid. It's at a Legendary. You're not going to see much of a crazy thing, and I really don't think it's that big a deal. That's kind of my first generic thing right there, okay? Number two, it's going to be interesting to see the demand and what happens with more of these Majestics and how LSS is going to handle the reprints of these cards that are going to continue to go up in value as people buy them, and the supply of singles is just not on the open market. It's just literally the cheapest card is going to continuously be bought in TCG Player, and then it's just going to naturally push upwards, right? So that leads us to the end of the video. I'm going to also tell you guys, I'm going to give a few little tips right now, or not tips, a few little hints. So yes, for my hardcore Flesh and Blood fans that have been with me for 5 years now, with Flesh and Blood for 5 years, we have some fun new things coming as some special Rudy and patron projects and Flesh and Blood and exclusive cards and things like that. for my hardcore fans on this sale. For the ones that want to buy the maximum, which is, 4 Rudy kits or Rudy bundles or Rudy promos, whatever you want to call it. Who want to buy 4 kits, not only are you going to get the PCG slab promo that we discussed, and you're going to get a sealed case and everything like that, but for the people who are hardcore, I am also going to include a nice holographic sticker with a code for you to get an additional game piece for the upcoming Season 2 of the Gem Keeper games coming up this summer. I'm going to give some basic structure around what you can expect from that. No, if you do not, but you don't need to buy the maximum to get an extra piece for this puzzle that's coming, okay? Why? Because the same pieces will be offered many, many times on Flesh and Blood sales over the next 12 to 18 months. But you need to understand, these puzzle pieces, they are cold foil, okay? They are full art. The pieces alone have value, and they're beautiful. And yes, it is structured similar to a video game crafting system. You will be required to get multiple copies of maybe piece number 2 to redeem and mail it back to me and send it into the P.O. box of Alpha Investments to redeem multiple copies of piece 2 to get yourself a copy of piece 5. You may need to have 2 piece 5s to get the higher up piece of piece 7. So yes, you will need additional copies of this. The game is going to be very difficult. Most people won't engage with it. Therefore, a lot of the people who get these pieces for buying Flesh and Blood aren't going to want them, because most people aren't going to engage because it's too difficult. They don't care, and they don't think it's worth the time. And then later this year, we're also going to have a special piece of art developed on a playmat, and that is currently in production right now. It's being custom made, where it's going to be like a Egyptian scroll, or a merchant scroll, or like a papyrus, or so like a syllabus in your college class, or a kind of an exchange rate of like a stock exchange. And on this beautiful playmat, it's going to tell you, it's going to have the puzzle in the middle of it, the number of each piece, and it's going to have win conditions number 1, win conditions number 2, and win conditions number 3. Number 1 is essentially the pieces you need and how to get the pieces. And if you have 2 of this piece, you can trade it for 1 of these. If you have 4 of these, which is a common, let's say piece 1, you can trade in 4 piece 1s and you can get a piece 6. It'll have everything laid out and you'll know the exchange rates. Win condition number 2 is going to have the exchange rates for other items. That's all I'm going to say. And win condition number 3, for the people who just don't care, they don't want to play the game, well, I'm going to rip you off and you can just pay to win. If you want to take that route and you just don't want to play the game, for people like that and the whales out there who just want everything Flesh and Blood, I will, because I know if I don't mention it, there's going to be people who are going to ask anyways. So that is all. These are kind of the things that are in the works of being structured that are coming. That's going to be a lot of fun for some people that want to engage in. This is, like I said, it's designed to be frustrating. It's designed to be tough. It is designed to be the far opposite end of game piece mentality, and it's designed that most people will never get to the end of it. And if you do, the reward card and the prize card and the win condition and the reward is extraordinarily high and extraordinarily valuable if you can get it. And that's the end of that. So tonight, since the game hasn't launched and we're in advance, I just want people to know, the hardcore people, yeah, if you buy pretty much the maximum of the new sale, I'm just going to give you a bonus piece, or I guess a code, because I don't have the pieces yet. They are literally at the printer, and gives you a little head start there. And that's about it. Other than that, folks, I think this is going to be set for a Flesh and Blood in a very strong bull market that started with heavy hitters, moving to Misty, moving to Rosetta, moving to the Hunted. I still believe the market bottomed with bright lights in that 2023 bad era, where the overall economy on a macro and micro scale, everything was pretty rough. But it looks pretty good for Flesh and Blood. I guess the question now is going to be, how are collectors, game piece players, well, regular players, and evil investors, how is everybody going to get along? Are we going to continue forward in an era where everybody picks sides and hates everybody? Are we going to continue in an era where apparently, we want to... A bunch of people were messaging me saying that we're going to ban all social media or something. I don't know what the fuck. I think people are just stupid. And I saw a bunch of messages the other day about we're not allowed to link or use any other social media anymore. and everything's been banned, and there's like a, I don't know, there's a bunch of pressure to ban links to all their social media websites because of bad things and evil people. I don't know what the fuck's going on. I'm too stupid to handle that stuff. I don't care. If you guys like cardboard, I like you. You don't have to like me. But we're here to enjoy cards and games. Past that, I don't know what the fuck's happening in the world. That's on you guys. So I think that's where we're at. I have a feeling with continuing to be very stable print runs, I don't see any signs of Flesh and Blood being overprinted. I don't see any data points showing the single cards are being overprinted, which reflect too much printing of boxes. There is no evidence of any of that in the current market conditions when you don't see any Fab 2.0 boxes tanking. Even the most recent Hot 3 sets, we don't have any data points of anything showing that they are skyrocketing, tanking, or doing anything. So the question is, who wins the tug of war at the end over the next 6 to 12 months in 2025? Will pretty much players buy so many single cards that we finally see some sane, crazy, volatile sealed box prices? Will the continuing of stable, tighter print runs by LSS, will that lead to a breakout? And when that breakout happens and it starts spreading and chatter starts happening, what happens to the market? Will LSS lean into the pretty much amount of people that are blowing up their messages in social media yelling about prices, and will they downshift playable cards and continue to do that? That is the tug of war that people want to know. That is what a lot of people want answers to, and pretty much the only data we can give you right now is Command & Conquer got a reprint. They don't want it to be worthless. They put it in the legendary slot. They made it fucking cool, and the card is going to be really expensive. That, with the power level of the Hunted, the flavor in CNC, I do not see a realm where these items tank in price. Unless, of course, Flesh and Blood doesn't exist or something. I mean, the game goes to zero, right? Past that, that's it. That's my speech of everything. Very excited to finally do some box openings. I promised, obviously, I wouldn't crack or reveal anything before release day, even though I've had this stuff a little early now. But I've been very, very antsy to crack and film some box openings. And I promise you guys that box opening videos on everything from Pokemon, Magic, and of course, Flesh and Blood, including Rosetta. And actually, wait, I don't even have any Rosetta. No, not including Rosetta. I was going to say, I will not be doing box openings with Rosetta. I don't have any. Really, really, really interested to do some the Hunted cracking. It's been a couple months since I've cracked some Fab boxes for you guys, and we will be bringing back some box opening videos, I promise. Things have been so busy and just so difficult for me to keep up in the last probably 60, 90 days, ever since the election ended in the United States, and the bull market has just been on a tear. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, it's been the Patreon system, the messages and the orders has been the most challenging I've ever seen in the 10 years I've been on YouTube to keep up with. The demand for cards and the market conditions are unlike anything I've seen, especially when it comes to these big boys. And I told you already, I do believe with the continuing skyrocketing of prices of Magic the Gathering, we are going to see spillover into Flesh and Blood. There is no way we go through the entire 2025 bull market and Wizards is going to sell $300, $400, $500 boxes, and you want to tell me that Flesh and Blood making booster boxes that are pretty much on TCG Player for $70, $80, $90 in the new one. By the way, keep in mind the new one MSRP is $120. So even at, so again, the price is shifted to $10. So keep that in mind. So I don't see a realm where an entire case of new Fab is $3.99. And of course, if you buy through Rudy, you also get a graded exclusive card and it's slabbed and everything, all included at no cost, at the same price. Like I don't see a realm where cases of Flesh and Blood are being sold for under $400, and one collector box of Magic is $500, $600, $700. Or it just seems crazy. Like we're gonna have spillover, and people are going to discover Flesh and Blood, and they're gonna realize the price difference. And hardcore people who love gameplay and mechanics, if they actually try Flesh and Blood, I think they would be more attractive to the mechanics of being a player or an organized play or a hardcore person who just wants to build tier 1 decks and compete. A very competitive individual. So, wow, this turned out to be a really long video. Fuck. All right. My sale's coming up. If you're a patron, buy it if you want. If you're not, be a patron and watch what happens behind the scenes because it's a lot of fun. Oh my God, 30-minute video? God.